In Chapter 10, we will be learning about section views. A section view uses section lines or crosshatch lines to indicate the surfaces that are cut by the imaginary cutting plane. If we look at the top view, you can see this line I drew right here called the cutting plane line. This line represents a physical cut through this part that I show through this modified side view called a section view. The type of section lines used to represent a surface varies according to the type of material. These crosshatch lines represent the material surface that you would view if you cut the part in half. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about how I created this part. A lot of the geometry I based upon the center point of this very first circle. With a few offsets we can get to the next circles, and you can see how the other circles are based off the independent center points. After a few tangent lines, you have your top view. I then projected over construction lines to make a side view and modified the side view by removing a few lines to create my section view. So now I'm going to go into how I made the section view. So I'm going to open up a new drawing. And open up my template. So I'm going to start off by going to my construction layer. Make sure it's turned on. I'm going to start off with a few construction lines. So the first thing here is to go to the draw portion of the ribbon tool panel and go to construction line. I want to make a horizontal line to start off with, so I'll put an H and spacebar. Select it at an arbitrary location. I'll hit spacebar to end the command and spacebar to repeat the command so I can make a vertical line. This time I'll input a V for vertical. Now I'm going to use the offset command in the modify toolbar to offset a few lines representing the different locations for the center points of the other circles. So my first offset is going to be a distance of 1.75, which would be half of 3.5. I'm going to select the line in the direction I want to offset in, and I'm going to do it one more time. When I'm finished, I'm going to press spacebar. And now I'm going to go to the circle command in the draw portion of the toolbar and use the center radius circle. I'm going to start off with a circle that is a diameter, so I can input a D of 3/8, which is 0.375. Now I'm in the wrong layer right now, so I need to correct that. So I'm going to left click the line I want to change and now change it to the proper layer. Once I've changed that layer, I'm going to deselect everything by pressing the escape button on the keyboard and switch to my object layer. Now I'm going to draw the rest of the circles that are either concentric or based off these other intersection points. All of which will be center radius circles. So I have one more that's a diameter of 5/8, and if I want to, I could actually input this as 5/8. That represents the counter bore for the bolt hole. And I have one more circle out here that's actually a radius of 3/4, so I don't have to change the input mode. And I'm just using the spacebar to re-input and in the command. The center circle here has a diameter of 1.5, as well as the counter bore with a diameter of 2, and finally the outside of the bearing housing, which is 2.5. And one more time, the circles on this side has a diameter of 3/8. Another diameter of 5/8. And a radius of 0.75. Now I'm going to get out my Object Snap toolbar, which is under Tools, Toolbars, AutoCAD, and Object Snap. I got this out so I can use the Tangent Object Snap. So first I'm going to select the Line command and the Tangent Object Snap. Notice how I have the tangent symbol showing up on the edge of the circle. I'm going to select the tangent symbol again and snap to the outside of the circle. To end the command, I'm going to press the space bar, then I'm going to re-enter the command with the space bar again, and do the exact same thing 3 more times. Again, notice the object snap symbol is the tangent symbol, which means we're in good shape. Now that we're finished here, we're going to use the trim tool to trim away the geometry we want to clean up. So I'm actually going to select all this with a window, go to the trim tool in the modify toolbar, and select the geometry we want to get rid of. It's really tricky here to not miss this, but we're going to zoom in a little bit and get rid of these little portions right here, because that's easy to miss. And again, the same thing on this side. In this case, I deleted the wrong part, which is okay, but I can press Control Z on my keyboard and undo that. And I'm still in the command, so I can just go about what I was doing. When I'm finished, I'm going to press the space bar to end the command. Notice I still have these half circles here, which I'm going to individually select and erase with the modify toolbar. Now we have our top view to the part. So we're going to use construction lines to project over to our side view. So we'll go to the construction layer and we'll get out a few more construction lines. These will all be horizontal, so I'll just use the horizontal portion of the construction line. Now I'm just going to follow down this vertical construction line I made earlier, and anytime there's an intersecting blue line or a center line, or center point, I'm going to snap a line to it. This may look like quite a few lines at first, but if you keep track of it, it'll help you out tremendously. Press the spacebar to end the command. Now I'm going to switch to my object layer and use the line command to start drawing this side profile. So we know the back here goes all the way down, so we want to make sure it's a perpendicular line, or we can just turn on ortho right now by selecting it, and everything will be snapped in a perpendicular fashion. So I'm going to click down here because I know that line has to go all the way down eventually. And now I know I need to go up a ½ inch, so I'll just input 0.5 on the keyboard and enter. And then I know I have to go in to the outside of this circle right over here, which is that line. And then we need to go this 1.5, because we know 2 minus a half would be 1.5. And then go across the top of this bearing, which would be this point over here. So that would be this construction line. We need to go down 1.5, back to this line, and complete your part. Press the space bar to enter the command. Now we're going to fill in a few more pieces of geometry. Again, we're going to use the line command. So here is where the shoulder of that bearing housing is, so I'm going to go down 1/4 inch over to the next line and then back up. We're going to do the same sort of thing over here for these bolts. So we're going to go down 1/8 inch. And it's kind of hard to see, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm going to snap over here and then back over. And to finish these off, we're going to draw the through hole for the bolts. I'm just re-entering and entering the command with the space bar, and I'm zooming in and out with the middle wheel on the mouse. So we're going to re-enter the command again, the line command that is, and we're going to draw this counterbore. So I snapped my mouse to this point, and I'm going to drag it over in the direction I want to go, 0.125, which I was snapped in the wrong direction, so I'll simply just press Control Z on the keyboard to undo that, so I'm still in the command. So I want to make sure that the line darkens the direction I want to go. If my mouse is up too high like it was earlier, it's snapped in the vertical direction, but I want to be in the horizontal, so I want to make sure I'm over exemplifying what direction I want to go. So I want to go down 0.125 over and snap one more time in the command, and we'll finish it up with a few more vertical lines. And to finish off this side view, you draw the through holes for here. Normally these would be hidden lines, and you'd also normally see a line that would connect these two. However, this is going to be a section view, so we actually want to be able to see those through holes. So in this case, this would be exposed, and this would be the material surface right here. One last thing is we want to put a 1/8 inch radius or fillet on the corner of this part. So we're going to use the fillet tool. Input R on the keyboard with a radius of 0.125. Spacebar. Now that we have the pick box, we can just select the two edges we want, and I'll put a radius on it. And one more thing, we need to add a few center lines here. So we're going to get our center line tool out and go to line command. And these need to be approximately 1/4 inch past the geometry. Try to make them as equal as you can. And you can, if you feel like it later on, to go back and adjust them by just moving the grips. And one more one for this guy. Now that we have our part here, we can draw our center cutting plane. This will be the plane that we choose to draw our section view about. So we have our section view here minus the crosshatch lines, which I'll put in a minute, and we need to draw a line representing where this section was cut out of the top view. So we're going to go to our cutting plane layer, and we're just simply going to use the line tool. We want to go approximately 1 inch past the part and 1 inch above it. When we're finished, we're going to press the spacebar to exit, and we need to add what is called multi-leader to this line, which shows the direction that the cut was made in. To do so, we need to adjust the multi-leader style, so we'll go to the annotation portion of the ribbon toolbar, press the down arrow, and select multi-leader style. Here we're under the standard style, and we're going to modify it. We're going to go to the leader structure and uncheck the box automatically include landing. Press OK and set to current to make sure it's current. Now we'll close it. We'll now go up to the multi-leader tool by just pressing it. And before we select anything, we're just going to press the down arrow, which will give us a few options. And we want the leader arrowhead last, not first. So we don't want to check this. If for some reason you come upon it and it gives the option to give the leader arrowhead last, that's when you want. So now we're going to select this grip here. Start that over again. I'm going to select this end, and notice the arrow's at the end now, so we want to point in the direction that the cut's made in. Now it'll ask us to specify a letter for the section, so I'm just going to give it an A. When I'm done, we're going to press out in the drawing graphics area. We're going to add one more multi-leader at the bottom, so we're going to snap to the bottom, pull the arrowhead over, and these go out approximately 1 inch as well. And since we gave a label for this multi-leader up here, we don't have to do it down here, so I'll just press in the Y area to end the command. Now I'm going to turn off my construction layer, as well as change to my section line layer. To add section lines, we're going to use the hatch tool, which is in the drawing portion of the ribbon tool panel. So I'm going to select the hatch. Up here, we can select the type of pattern. Right now we have the ANSI 31 pattern selected, which is a default for AutoCAD. If you want to change that, we can press this button to the left. And notice we have the ANSI standards, ISO, and others. You can see we have brick, brass, cork, anything you want to represent a different material. But we're going to stick to our ANSI 31. We can also change the angle of the section lines. What this does is allow us to choose to reference other parts in an assembly drawing. So if you have multiple section views in one drawing that are touching, you'd want each part to have a different angled section line. That way you can tell the difference between two different parts. As well as scaling these section lines, this will allow us to put the lines closer or further apart from each other. The ways to choose where your section lines go are by defining your boundaries. We're going to use pick points. So we're going to press this, and that window will go away, and we can select the areas that we want to be hatched. So this first area we want hatched is right here. So I'm going to select somewhere inside of that area by just clicking once. I'll now choose that again in here, in here, and in here. So we can do this multiple times. When I'm finished, I'm going to press the escape bar on the keyboard to bring back up that window. And it didn't register that, so I'm going to do that one more time. So I'm going to pick points, and I'm going to pick the boundaries that they're located in. This time, instead of pressing the escape key, I'm going to right-click the mouse and choose preview, so I can preview what the hatches are going to look like. If I like it, I'm just going to right-click one more time. Now we have our section view, and what's left, of course, is to dimension it. So we're going to switch to our dimension layer, and we're just going to take it piece by piece. We'll start with the top view and start dimensioning it. So we're going to start off with a linear dimension, and we want to dimension from the center of this circle to the center of this circle. Then we'll go to a radius and dimension this radius right here. Next, we'll go back to a linear dimension, and this section view is primarily made up of linear dimensions. However, it represents a lot of diameters, so we have to input the diameter symbol as we input these dimensions. So this first one here, I want to input a degree symbol first. Sorry, a diameter symbol. And to do that, you notice it prompts you at the command prompt line for an in-text, text, angle, horizontal, vertical, or rotated. I'm going to press T for text. And now I can modify what that actual text is going to say. We want the 2.5 to stay there, so I'm just going to press the left arrow to unhighlight it and enter a %% which stands for diameter. Press enter to finish, and now I need to still select the location for this, which I'll place right there. Do another linear dimension for the inside of this counterbore. And again, before you snap it to a location, you want to input a T, spacebar. Now we want to unhighlight it, so I'm going to push the left arrow on the keyboard and enter a %% and enter. And now I can select location for it. T. You gotta make sure you grab the right grip when you move these dimensions, otherwise you'll move lines that you don't mean to move. Okay, and we have the 1/8 inch dimension here. Notice how I didn't quite snap to the right line, I actually snapped to that dimension line, so I'm going to cancel that with the escape on the keyboard. Zoom in a little bit so I make the right snaps. There's my 1/8. Now we have this dimension right here. Notice how it cuts through that 1/8 inch dimension, so I'm just going to switch that to this side. Now we have the diameter of this hole, which is 3/8, but we got to give it a diameter symbol since it represents a diameter. This will be our last time we have to enter a diameter. So T and a last dimension for the top here. Just notice that I forgot a hole, which is okay. We can input that real quick. So an easier way to do this is just offset a construction line. So now that I got the construction line out, I'll press O for offset. There's my intersection, so I'll grab my circle and place a diameter of 0.25. Actually, that'd be 0.375. Now we can get rid of this line so we don't need it anymore. And we'll switch back to our dimensions and dimension it. So we need a distance here and a diameter. And there you have it. There is our drawn part. We can now switch to the layout and lay this out in our drawing here. We can make sure it's a 1:1 by selecting 1:1 scale. And it doesn't quite fit in here. So I'm going to unlock it and change the scale a little bit. Middle wheel until it fits. And there you go. There's your part.